Hi everyone, how are you doing? So I've just come back from the cinema where I've been to see the film Yesterday, which has just come out today, and you've probably seen it advertised. This is the film that poses the question, what if the Beatles never existed to the world, but there's one man who remembers them? What would he do in a world like that? I'm going to be very careful in this video because I'm aware that most of you are not going to have had a chance to see this yet because it's only come out today. So I'm going to focus first of all on just generally roughly what the plot is, no big spoilers, and what I thought of the film, and then I'm going to stray off into some territory about actual bigger spoilers. So I'll make sure you know before I do that because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So yeah, what do we know about this film? So it was written by Richard Curtis, who's famous for writing lots of big hit sort of romantic comedy films, as well as a lot of classic British sitcoms like Blackadder, Vicar of Dibley, etc. Directed by Danny Boyle, who's done Trainspotting, Shallow Grave, Slumdog Millionaire, and the London 2012 Olympic opening ceremony. So good pedigree there with the writer and director. And so yeah, this question about what if the Beatles had never existed, it's an interesting one because we've recently had the Queen film and the Elton John film, so Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, that are sort of showing, you know, this is the influence that these guys had, this is how amazing they were, which they were, and Elton still is. But they've gone completely the opposite way with this, and I want to read a quote to you from, this is, excuse me a minute, I'm going to read something. I don't normally read stuff during these videos, but I'm going on this occasion. I've got a quote here, and this is from the Capital Times paper, which is in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. And they came up with a great line that I wanted to share with you. It's Paul McCartney focused, but it's because they were writing an article because he was doing a gig there just recently, which is why it focuses on him specifically and not the rest of the Beatles. But just have a listen to this because I really like this. It says, icon, god, legend. The words seem inadequate to describe the impact McCartney has had on popular culture and the effect he has on a room. They've made recent movies about Elton John, Rocket Man, and Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, but McCartney's presence is so large in the world that they've made a movie about what it would be like if he didn't exist. I think that's a great quote. There's no point trying to show everybody how big the Beatles are because we know how big the Beatles are, but this sort of goes the other way. What would happen if they didn't exist? So yeah, the basic plot point, which is on the adverts that you see on telly, it's on all the trailers, so I don't think I'm giving anything away here. Got a struggling musician called Jack Malik, who's played by Himesh Patel, who's really good in this, and basically he's getting nowhere with his music career. He's about to pack it all in, and he gets hit by a bus while he's on his bike. And when he wakes up in hospital, he finds himself in a world where nobody remembers the Beatles apart from him, and it completely freaks him out. So the film says, what would happen in that situation? What would he do? How might he use that information to his advantage? What problems could it cause? I really, really enjoyed this film. It's a film where if you have any kind of snobbery about Beatles music, then just leave that behind. Go into the cinema without that and just go and enjoy it for what it is, because this is clearly made by people who have a love for the band. I think it will bring some new fans to the band. There'll be young kids who watch this film who think, oh yeah, this music's good, I like this, and they might explore it a bit more, and that to me can only be a good thing. So yes, I think the film is really good. If you get a chance to go and see it, then I would definitely recommend it. I went with my wife and I asked her to let me know what she thought about, would this film be suitable for somebody who isn't a Beatles fan? Because that might be, you know, if you're a Beatles fan, you might be wanting to go with somebody who isn't. Will they enjoy it? Her reaction very much is yes, definitely. There's a lot more to this film than just the Beatles. The Beatles are almost they're not a side point to the film, but they are certainly not the whole film, and there's a really good film there besides the parts that are particularly focused on them. Ed Sheeran's in the film as himself for quite a bit. That's in the trailers as well, so that's no spoiler. And he's not a great actor, to be honest, but he's all right in this. He sends himself up a bit as well. He's happy to be very sort of self-deprecating in this, which was good to see. So yeah, he's worth watching in it. And James Corden is in it as well. I'm no James Corden fan, don't particularly like the guy, but he's in it for a little while. Again, that's been in some of the trailers, so I'm not telling you anything there that you're not supposed to know in advance. Okay, so now I am gonna stray a little bit into trailer territory. So spoiler territory, sorry. So you have been warned. Don't blame me if you carry on watching at this point and you hear something you don't want to hear. Okay, are you ready? Good. Right. So yeah, once he starts to perform the Beatles songs and pass them off as his own, he attracts the attention of record companies very quickly. They want to sign him up. They think that his songs are absolutely fantastic, which of course they are fantastic songs. So one of the interesting things that I thought while watching this was that they concentrated very much on the songwriting with this. It was all about the song. It wasn't to do with the other things that the Beatles did in terms of the experimentation in the studio and sort of breaking boundaries, having to invent new techniques to make their songs happen. None of that is gone into at all, and you probably couldn't, because you'd be just making it too big a film then. So it's very much focused on. Most of the time, these songs are performed as one man with an acoustic guitar, one man on a piano, that kind of thing. And sometimes you hear recordings of versions that have been sort of done as full things in a studio, but generally you're talking about. I likened it actually to the fact that Ed Sheeran is in this, and we're now in 2019. The songs were almost being performed in an Ed Sheeran acoustic guitar kind of style, which isn't my kind of thing, but yeah, the songs are obviously good enough to stand up in that kind of environment. So hopefully that'll appeal to kids who are watching it as well. As I've said, I hope that there are people who become Beatles fans as a result of this film. A few other things that I thought were interesting is there's a good sort of UK versus US element to this film. So it is very much a British film. It's written in a British style with our sort of self-deprecating humour. I mentioned about Ed Sheeran puts himself down a couple of times. One particular instance, now that we're into spoiler territory, Ed Sheeran and Jack, the main character, Ed suggests a competition between the two of them. Just 10 minutes. They both go off into a room for 10 minutes, come back with a brand new song, and let's see who's best. So this is all sort of backstage at a gig afterwards. And so Ed comes on and performs a nice Ed Sheeran kind of song. Jack then sits at a piano and sings The Long and Winding Road. And Ed Sheeran just basically says, do you know what? I'm rubbish compared to you. You're far better than me. I knew somebody would come along and knock me off my perch eventually, and you're the person. And Ed Sheeran just sort of says, I'm off to bed, I've had enough of this, because he just thinks that he's been completely and utterly obliterated in this competition. So that was quite funny. My wife made a good point about she saw similarities between this film and Slumdog Millionaire. Well, now, whether that's deliberate because they're both Danny Boyle films, I don't know. But in terms of both films about being grabbing an opportunity. So, for example, in Slumdog Millionaire, where the lad uses his experiences as an opportunity to do well on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, this film, you've got Jack using the opportunity to use these songs in the right context, for example, and to further his career. So, for example, when he does go off to do that gig with Ed Sheeran in Moscow, he claims to have written Back in the USSR as a deliberate thing for that, specifically for that gig. So she could see some similarities between those two films there, which I thought was interesting. There's I was mentioning about UK versus US. So when he becomes famous, and everybody wants a piece of him, he then starts going off to Los Angeles and he's dealing with sort of American record companies. And you see the big difference there between, this is very, very much stereotypes, but the sort of US stereotype of everybody, like the American dream, seizing your opportunity, etc. And you've got the British who are much more reserved and self-deprecating. So the American record executive is sort of saying, do you want to be the best in the world? Do you want to be the biggest thing in the world? And he's sort of, well, you know, I don't mind. Yeah, that'd be good. And she's really sort of trying to tease out of him the fact that he should grasp this opportunity. So it's a good sort of battle between the UK and the US sort of frame of mind, if you like. What else? Yeah, now there's this isn't the first time that the concept of somebody trying to claim the Beatles songs as their own for their own gain has been done. So those of you who are in the UK might remember a programme called Goodnight Sweetheart from the 1990s, which was a comedy show about a guy who found this time portal back to the 1940s to wartime London. Only he could go down this portal, nobody else could. And he built himself a completely different life in 1940, and he could just switch between his 1990s life and his 1940s life. And while he was in the 1940s, he'd sit at the pub sit on the piano at the pub and just start bashing out Beatles tunes and Elton John tunes and such like, and claiming them as his own. And everyone thought he was the most amazing songwriter. So it's not the first time this idea has been used, but this expands on it in a whole new way. I'm going to get into major spoiler territory now. So again, you've been warned. One thing that I didn't know before this film, and I didn't want to know, was whether or not Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr appear in the film. Because you may well have seen, there's one of the trailers shows the James Corden clip where Jack has been interviewed about his songs and how he's such an amazing songwriter, and James Corden says, but there's two men who claim that these songs are theirs. He claims that they wrote them in their band. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Liverpool, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. And the curtains open, and so I'd seen this trailer, but I didn't know whether they actually appeared in it, because I know that it's approved by them, is this film. It has to be approved by them. And I know that Danny Boyle's mentioned in interviews about how he's spoken to Paul McCartney a few times about how to do certain things in the film. And so, yeah, there's mention of Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr there. And do you want to know whether they appear or not? Do you want to know? Right, okay, well, if you don't want to know, skip forward about 10 seconds from now. No, they don't. They're not in it. Are you back with me? Right, okay, those of you who skip forward 10 seconds, are you back with me? Right, okay, I've done that bit now. Okay, I'm going to just talk about towards the end of the film now. So it's a Richard Curtis film is always likely to have a nice, lovely, happy ending, and this has a lovely, nice, happy ending. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want people to go and see this film. But there is one particular thing that just sort of teared me up, really. So because we're looking at a world where the Beatles didn't become this huge music act, it means that things are different. And what we find out near the end is that means that there's one specific thing that is very, very different. And it nearly made me cry. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I don't want to tell you what it is. I want you to find out for yourself. But you will know what I mean when you see it. Yeah, Richard Curtis knows how to do a good ending to a film and how to do a feel-good film. And he's really, really done that at the end of this film. So yeah, I'm afraid that's one spoiler that I'm not going to tell you because I want you to see that for yourself. So yeah, it's opening day today. I hope as many of you as possible are going to get the chance to see this film either at the cinema or when it comes out on Netflix or wherever it comes out on eventually. Because it's just really good, and I love anything that keeps the Beatles going, keeps their name going, because we're getting to that point now where, you know, if kids don't hear about it, they're not gonna carry on being the Beatles fans of the future, and that would be really sad. So things like this, I think, are great. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Thank you very much for watching, and just, you know, let me know if you've got any comments as usual, and love to have a chat about it. So thank you very much for watching. See you later. Bye bye.